Hey guys, Marsing in here bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today I'm finally doing the showcase for the TEQ Future Gohan. This is the last of the batch of EZA'S for this later part of part 2 that I have not yet done a video for. So we're going to check him out here, obviously full level 10 links, see how well he gets on. Now, he is an interesting unit to showcase because I do genuinely think that he is a unit that is, if you are going to use him, he's basically going to be a third slot floating unit. So obviously for a showcase, that means we have to keep him on main rotation. And the one thing that is going to be kind of awkward with that is that one of his best teams is going to be the Future Gohan team, but they share the same name. So this guy being on rotation is not really ideal, because if he has to be next to the LR, then, you know, one of them is not going to have any links active. So we'll take a look at what he does. Now, he infinitely stacks attack. He massively raises attack with each super, which is a 100% raise. So potentially in a long enough event, he could actually get up to some pretty crazy numbers. He raises defense for 3 turns as well, so you can get a couple of stacks on that if you do get some additionals. He does supreme damage. And then his passive is attack and defense 158. He gets an additional attack and defense 158 for 5 turns from the start of the turn. So obviously we'll have that active now for the first couple of turns. He gets an additional attack and defense 158% when HP is 85% or less. Then he gets an additional attack and defense 58% when HP is 58% or less. He gives Future Saga allies 2 ki and 30% attack. And then he has a high chance to dodge and launches an additional attack that has a medium chance to become a super when there is an androids or future enemy. So straight off the bat, like without an androids or future saga enemy and him not having that chance to dodge, I probably wouldn't be super confident in his defensive capabilities. Now, I haven't given him, I did give him some skill obs, I think. I haven't really re-looked at his hidden potential since I built him. I think I originally, just because he's such an old unit, I had him built additional and crit, and so I just gave him skill orbs to give him dodge. Because again, like I say, I'll probably only really use him as a third slot floating unit. I'm not going to spend stones to fix his hidden potential. I probably would take off the crit and just give him more dodge and then a little bit additional or something. But we'll see how he gets on. So start of turn, he has 236k defense on this turn with no support. He's going to get 30% with each super attack. So obviously he's getting, what in that case, around 80k roughly-ish. So 320 after 1 super, which obviously, as we know, for the current meta of like difficult content is not particularly great, but it's also not, you know, completely terrible. But it just depends on the luck with the RNG. I mean, I guess on the one hand, you could kind of say it is completely terrible because we have bosses in the newest stages that are hitting you for like 500, 600, 700k normals, depending on whether they've supered first or not. And so with 300k defense and no other sort of defensive tech, that means you're taking like 300k damage from those normals, which is not great. Now, obviously, in the newest Red Zone stages for the Dismal Future Red Zone, you are going to be fighting an Android or Future Saga enemy in every single one of the stages that they've released so far, right? Because the Androids in the first stage and Cell in the second stage, I don't believe they count as Future Saga. I don't know if actually the first 2 phase Androids do. Maybe they do, but the Cell doesn't. But they're both androids, so it doesn't matter, right? Because his thing is androids or Future Saga. So let's see what we get turn 1 here. 4 million basically as a start, which is not great, but I mean, it is what it is. We do get an additional from the hidden potential, but unfortunately it was only a normal. I feel like where he's really going to go crazy is when you do get a bunch of additional supers in 1 turn, right? Because he keeps that stack of defense for 3 turns, it means when he comes around on the next rotation, he is still going to have that defense if he's on main rotation. The problem is again, if you're floating him, so if he's on turn 1 and you're floating him in slot 3, even if he gets like a triple super, he gets that defense for 3 turns, but he's getting it on turn 1. So it means he has that defense buff for turns 1, 2, and 3. So then he comes back on turn 4 and he doesn't have those stacks anymore. Now, obviously being in slot 3 is beneficial for him because it means he's only going to be taking hits after he attacks, unless we're going into phases where there are AoEs. And unsurprisingly, he's probably not going to be very good in those because none of those enemies are Future Saga or androids. So he's not going to have his built-in dodge either. And so things are probably going to go pretty badly for you in those situations, right? Like Sin and Omega especially. So in terms of where I think his overall usage comes in, I feel like now that I've had more time to play with the LR future Gohan, I actually see a lot less value in this TEQ Gohan, because when the details came out for all the units, one of the things that we could see straight away, because I think people were kind of blinded by just how much damage reduction Gohan has, the LR, so a lot of people were just like, okay, well Gohan's a slot 1 unit, but like turn 1, slot 1, he eats a super before he's attacked, he takes a lot of damage. So obviously it's not necessarily, you can't just plug him in slot 1 every single rotation and be like, okay, yeah, he's fine. So that creates the problem that I said at the very beginning, which is that this Gohan obviously shares the same name as him. So if you're running future Gohan, like the double future Gohan leads, but you're running them in slot 2, then this guy floating into slot 3, it then creates an issue with the links. So future Gohan can build up to being good in slot 1 in some of these events, especially like when his passive is fully maxed out, you get the domain go off and then you use his active skill, so he has a permanent defensive buff on top of all the defense that he's already built up in his passive. Like from that point you can kind of use him in turn 1, but of course after that first turn ends, if we're talking about turn 5 specifically, once that turn ends, he's now got his permanent buff from the active skill, but he's now lost some of his damage reduction because the intro animation runs out. So honestly, to me, future Gohan just feels like the ultimate, almost untouchable sort of defensive unit when he's in slot 2. So that just creates yet a further problem for this TEQ future Gohan. Now obviously, if you don't have the LR future Gohan, then this guy could be potentially useful. But another couple of problems that we'll run into is that none of the future Gohan units are on time travelers. So he's not on the Trunks 200% team, and he's not on the Blue Boys 200% team, because their extra 30% is the Time Travelers and Realm of Gods. So the Future Saga team without the full 200% lead is still very good, but obviously you have to bear in mind that means that this future Gohan is going to be getting a lot less stats from the actual from the actual leader skill. So that is obviously going to be a little bit unfortunate for him. I think on this rotation, I do want to float you off so you can link up with the other one. So ideally, I wouldn't normally put Trunks in a sort of slot 1 situation like this, but against this Cell this early on in the event, he's only attacking once before we super. We should be okay even if he super attacks, which he didn't, so we're all good. So yeah, TEQ future Gohan. Even if he was to put on a really good performance in this video as we see more rotations with him, I just don't see him as a unit that I'm going to use, right? Because he just does not fit on the builds of the teams that I want to run. And things like Bond of Master and Disciple that's got massive buffs in this celebration, if you have those units, you're going to be running the LR future Gohan, the Int future Gohan, Trunks, like even Vegeta and Trunks are on Bond of Master and Disciple. Like it just feels like this TEQ future Gohan doesn't really have a place. Like it's cool that they finally gave him an EZA, because I think he might have been one of the oldest units in the game that didn't have an EZA, but he's kind of EZA'd at a time where he's not going to be hugely beneficial to a lot of people. Now again, like I said, if you haven't pulled the LR, that's probably one of the big differences, but as we already mentioned, you can't run him on Trunks' team. You can run him on the Blue Boys or the Vegeta and Trunks like lead version of Future Saga. He's just only going to be getting the 170. So with his only defensive tech being dodge versus specific enemies, I feel like those are the only times you are really going to use them, right? Because yeah, this is one of the turns that I'm talking about. So future Gohan, the LR, still has his intro active. So if I was running this as like, you know, if I was just running this team in general to beat events, like this is the rotation you'd have to use to get links. But this is the rotation, like in terms of my main rotation units, like Future Gohan and LR, Vegeta and Trunks, this is how I would want the rotation. I want Future Gohan in slot 2, so he can super attack first, get his full damage reduction, especially because we have an AGL enemy. So that means if I was running this specific team build outside of this showcase, then I've now got this Future Gohan in slot 3 and he has no links active, which is kind of unfortunate. So obviously I'm going to actually do this because we want to showcase this guy. So he shares 3 links with the Vegeta and Trunks. So he's at 300k defense start of turn here. Now again, considering we do get stacks for a couple of turns off of his super attack effects, it's not really particularly great. I don't think we've been getting very lucky, have we, with the additionals, so here's a little bit unfortunate. Now again, the other problem with the future Gohan is so much of his stats from his passive are gated behind being on low HP. So I think, are we even below 85%? So he's only getting like the bare minimum right now. Yeah. So we really need to lose some HP over the next like 2 turns so we can really see him start to take damage, start to boost those numbers up, because even at this point we're still not below 85% HP. So we do finally get the additional. Now he's up to 5.4. This is the thing with massively raising attack, right? So each super is going to significantly increase his attack power. And then we do tank. Obviously we've got type advantage, so tank reasonably well against this cell. We just need to take some damage in like the next turn so that we can drop below some of these HP thresholds. Ideally we take enough damage to drop below the 58% and actually get the full stats from his passive, because I would quite like to see what his attack and defense is going to be on that turn specifically. Like I said, look at Future Gohan just going off in the last slot here. He's got no links active, so it's not like he's doing a crazy amount of damage, but dude is just going off here. So here's the domain. I guess I could... Should I put him in slot 1? I could put Trunks in slot 1 without using the active, because if he supers, Trunks will take a lot of damage. So I could do that. I could do this as well. Were these guys on turn 1? No, we haven't floated them at all, have we? So they must have been on turn 2, so they will still have their guard. So yeah, if I do this, because I'm just deliberately trying to take some damage here, right? Avoid all the same type orbs. I'm not going to use the domain, the active skill for Gohan and give him the extra buffs. This is actually good. This will do a decent... Oh, never mind. I was going to say, this will do a decent bit of damage, but of course, my Trunks with only 6 dodge, dodges the super attack, so kind of unfortunate considering what I'm going for here. If we were going for actually, like, you know, doing a challenge run or something, that would have been great, but that's not quite what I wanted on this turn. Mr. Sword of Hope Trunks, but okay. Now these guys, they should still have their guard, right? They're not getting the extra defensive buff because they're not in slot 1. How much would they take from a super from this cell? Probably not like a crazy amount still, right? Now, I mean, if their guards run out, I don't think we would die just because this team has so much HP, but that would be a very good amount of damage for them to take. But they're also just going off here getting multiple super attacks. Alright, Cell, do some damage to me now. Right, we don't have the guard active, so super attack? No? Okay, well, suffering from success. This is the problem. Just like with the Vegito Blue Fusion, you go through some of these. I know this is an easier event, but I like to showcase these EZA'S in some of these easier events first before just jumping straight into an event where, you know, for Gohan specifically as well, he's going to be taking like 300k normals turn 1 if we don't dodge. So, bit disappointing. We definitely could lose some HP on this turn. So, I mean, Trunks and Vegeta are probably taking a super this turn because he does seem to super in slot 1 basically all the time, which should be a pretty decent amount of damage. And then we'll do this. What's our defense now? Yes, it's dropped back down to 234 because this is the problem with only having stacks of defense for a certain number of turns, is then they drop off and then you're kind of back to square 1, right? So also the fact that he only gives attack support, it would be very, very convenient if he gave defense as well, because obviously he gets the support from his own support passive. So, yeah, it sucks because there are going to be some of those runs where you do get, like, especially in the difficult content, right? You get hit with a super in, like, turn 1, and then Gohan comes in on turn 2 and you're at, like, 30% HP. And then maybe you even need to, like, heal or something. Ooh. That was 160k from a normal, from him not dodging. I mean, that in and of itself tells us a lot, right? Because this cell is not on the level of like the newest Red Zone bosses. And we only got 1 super, right? So we had to start again with our stacks. We only got 1 super. But that's not great, him taking 160k from a normal. Although we're in a pretty good spot here now because I can just kill him straight up here without having to worry about... in fact, let me just fuse so I don't lose the opportunity to. I shouldn't, but... Fuse so I don't lose the opportunity to do so, and then I'll just kill him with Gohan, because Gohan, even in slot 1 without getting like the extra buffs from here attacking first is not going to die to a super attack from Cell here. Because the fact that we get to kill him basically straight away means we then go straight into the next rotation with Gohan getting these buffs from being on low HP. Because are we actually at 58% or less? How much HP do we have? Let me see when we go into this next turn. So we are at what? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just making sure I'm not miscounting the HP blocks. So we are at, we got 5 full, which is 50, and then the 6th block is just over halfway full, but I wouldn't say it's 58%, right? So we should be at below 58% HP. So that means we are getting the full buffs. So 100, we've now of course lost the 158% for 5 turns, so we didn't get to see both of those buffs up at the same time. So we're now just getting that 158% replaced by being below 85%, and then because we're below 58%, we're getting another 58%. So that's really all we're getting from what we've seen in the early turns is an extra 58%, and that's only putting him on 350k, which obviously is still not particularly great. Let's go ahead and do this. Because how much does that give him? We give him a 20% extra buff on top, which is multiplicative, right? So that should be a pretty good little bit of a buff for him. Yeah, that puts him to 420. Good meme number. But yeah, 420k defense. I mean, it's not great. He's going to get 30% on super, so he is going to be around 500k. But yeah, I mean, against this STR cell, like if he doesn't dodge a super, he's still dead. So it's a little bit disappointing. I think Future Gohan, I'm really disappointed with the STR Trunks, although I think I might have just got really unlucky in the runs that I did in the showcase for him. So I'm trying to decide whether I think this TEQ Future Gohan or that STR Trunks is the worst out of the new EZA'S. Because both of them share the same name with the new LR that has come out in the same part, right? Because the STR Trunks has the same name as the physical Trunks, the TEQ Future Gohan has the same name as the LR. Now 7.5, now that we're getting our stacks up and we're getting some buffs, and then jumping straight up to 8.2, now for the final phase of the event, we're obviously trying to just finish it off as quickly as possible and win, that's some pretty good attack stats right there, and then double digits from the normals. But I mean, this is like his best turn without having a support unit in slot 3. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I'm definitely not thinking he's super great. Like I said, obviously I got quite lucky. I didn't really even have to wail. I just got very lucky and pulled the 2 new LRs fairly quickly. So for me, who has the units to build, any version of the Future Saga team that I want, I'm probably not going to be running this guy, right? So, yeah, you guys let me know what you think down below in the comment section. We'll end it out here with the Vegito active skill. But yeah, that was the TEQ Future Gohan. Definitely don't think he's too great, but let me know what you guys think down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been The Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store. And I will see you all again soon. Have a good one. Cool, that KO screen. I've got to leave that bit in, actually. Whoa.